In a land where the river whispers and the forest watches, one girl will rise from the ashes, not to find a prince, but to find her power. This is the tale of Ashabi of the Ashes. Don't forget to like, share, and follow this journey to the end.
In the heart of Yoruba land, where the drums speak and the trees carry secrets, lived a girl named Ashabi, a name whispered like a song long forgotten. Ashabi's mother, Aduk, was a woman of grace and quiet power. Some say the river spirits smiled on her. Her husband, the great hunter Ajani, loved her fiercely. But love, like rain, can vanish when shadows creep in. When Aduk died suddenly, her skin pale, her lips tinged with purple, the villagers whispered that poison had stolen her breath. Still mourning, Ajani took another wife. Her name was Ayalode. Beautiful, refined, and cold as the harmattan wind. Ashabi, once cherished, became nothing more than a shadow in her own home. She now lived among the ashes. Her days were spent scrubbing floors, fetching water, and washing her stepsister's fine wrappers. Her hands were calloused, her feet scarred. And though her face remained kind, her eyes held stories no one had time to hear. One afternoon, as Ashabi washed clothes beside the fire, her stepsisters strolled past, dressed in colorful wrappers and gleaming beads. "Ooh," one sneered. "You missed a spot on my wrapper. Are you blind?" "I'll clean it again," Ashabi replied softly, not meeting her gaze. The second sister chuckled. "Just like your mother cleaned her way into the grave." Ashabi said nothing, but her hand clenched. Deep within her chest, something stirred, something old and waiting. That night, when the moon rose full and silver over the village, Ashabi crept away to the river. The air was cool and the crickets sang. She held a small charm around her neck, her late mother's necklace. The only thing she had left. "I miss you, Mommy," she whispered. "I'm so tired." A low, gravelly voice echoed from nearby. "Even ashes can birth flames, child." She turned quickly, eyes wide. Who said that?" From the shadows beneath a twisted palm tree, an old tortoise emerged. Its shell was cracked, its eyes ancient. "I've watched you," it said. "Your mother walks with you still." Ashabi stepped back, unsure. "I'm nobody. Just a servant in my own father's house." "Even a seed buried in dung still grows," the tortoise replied with a slow smile. Far from the river, inside the grand walls of the Oba's palace, the king's council had gathered. The kingdom buzzed with news. A great Oro festival would be held. The Prince Folarin would choose a bride. Only daughters of noble blood were permitted to attend. "My son must choose from the finest families," the Oba declared. Prince Folarin, seated beside him, said nothing. His eyes were thoughtful. His dreams had been strange lately, visions of a girl covered in soot, standing by the river with light in her eyes. Back in the village, a royal messenger arrived with trumpets and scrolls. "Let it be known," he announced, "the festival of Oro approaches. Prince Folarin will choose his bride. All noble maidens must prepare." Ashabi stood quietly as her stepsisters shrieked with excitement. They danced and sang, throwing wrappers over their shoulders. Ayalode, their mother, clapped her hands with pride. But her eyes drifted toward Ashabi, narrow and calculating. Later that evening, Ayalode whispered to her daughters, "The prince will choose one of you. That girl must not be seen at the festival." Ashabi returned to the river, heart heavy, shoulders slumped. She sat beside the same tree, staring at the stars. "Why was I born into this life?" she asked the wind. The tortoise returned, his shell glinting under the moon. "Your story is not over," he said. "Go to the ancient Irako tree when the moon is next full. The wind will carry your name to the one who will change everything." But from the shadows someone was watching. That night, Deep in the forest, Ailode entered a dark shrine built from bone and vine. Smoke curled around her head. The walls whispered. The air pulsed with old magic. She knelt before an altar and placed a black stone before it. "The girl's power grows," she whispered. "Give me what I need to end her rise, once and for all." From the darkness something answered. Its voice was like wind dragging across dry leaves. "Then bring me her blood," it said, "and your request shall be granted." The fire flared. The forest held its breath. Ashabi's destiny had begun to burn. The days grew hotter as the festival of Oro approached. All across the kingdom, tailors worked without rest, weaving silk, osso oak, and gold thread into gowns fit for royalty. Daughters of chiefs, warriors, and merchants prepared like their lives depended on it. For some it did. In Ashabi's household the energy was electric. Wura and Ronk giggled through their fittings. They smeared camwood on their faces and argued over head wraps and bangles. Ailode watched them closely, her smile tight, her mind elsewhere. Ashabi spent her days scrubbing the courtyard, pounding yam, and oiling her stepsister's feet. She barely slept, and when she did, she dreamed of fire and feathers, of a hand reaching for hers from a place she couldn't see. She dared not ask about the festival. She knew her place. But the ache in her chest grew heavier with each passing day. Then came the night of the full moon. Ashabi slipped away after everyone had gone to bed. She wore nothing fancy, just a faded wrapper and her mother's necklace hidden beneath it. The tortoise had told her to go to the irako tree. So she walked deep into the forest, guided only by moonlight and faith. The irako tree stood tall and alone, its trunk thick as a house, its bark carved with ancient symbols. She knelt beside its roots. "I'm here," she whispered. "I don't know what I'm waiting for, but I'm here." The wind stirred. The leaves shimmered. And from behind the tree stepped an old woman wrapped in indigo cloth. Her hair was white and long, her eyes sharp as a hawk's. "Stand, child," she said. "You are the daughter of a duk." Ashabi rose slowly. "Do you know my mother?" "I knew her spirit. She was a daughter of the river. Just as you are." Ashabi blinked. "I don't understand." "You will," the woman said. "The festival is your path. But to walk it you must first be seen." She lifted her hand and suddenly the ground trembled. The roots of the irako tree split open, revealing a small chamber glowing with blue light. Inside were bolts of fabric finer than anything Ashabi had ever touched. Beads shimmered like starlight. Sandals made of gazelle leather stood waiting beside a mirror carved from polished stone. "This is for me?" Ashabi asked, breathless. The woman nodded. "But beauty alone is not enough. Do you trust yourself?" "I don't know." "Then trust the spirit inside you. Put these on. But listen well. The magic will fade when the third drum beats at midnight. After that you must return." Ashabi stepped into the chamber and dressed in silence. When she emerged, she didn't recognize herself. Her gown flowed like water, golden and deep blue. Her hair was wrapped in silver thread, her skin glowing like dusk. Royal. The woman stepped aside, revealing a carved staff. "Strike this on the ground," she said, "and your way will be opened." Ashabi raised it and struck the earth once. A wind burst from the trees. In seconds, a chariot shaped like a giant calabash rolled into view, pulled by 4 long-horned antelopes. Ashabi gasped. "Go now," the woman said. "But remember, when the third drum sounds you must be gone." Ashabi nodded, heart pounding. She climbed into the chariot and in a flash of light, vanished into the night. The palace was already glowing when she arrived. Torches lit every path. Drummers beat rhythms that made the walls breathe. Courtiers in white and gold paraded in with laughter and fanfare. When Ashabi stepped out of the chariot, time seemed to stop. No one knew her. No one recognized the girl who arrived alone, wrapped in gold and mystery. Whispers followed her as she entered. Who is she? She must be from the coast. No, she's too dark for that. Look at her eyes. Prince Folarin stood at the far end of the courtyard, flanked by guards and elders. He looked bored until he saw her. Their eyes met. Something ancient passed between them. Something wordless and real. He stepped forward. I know you. She smiled gently. We've never met. You've lived in my dreams, he said, taking her hand. They danced. The music lifted. The air shimmered. And for a while Ashabi forgot who she was. She forgot the soot, the hunger, the cruel laughter. She was weightless. But somewhere beyond the palace gates, Aylode stirred in her sleep. Her dream showed her a girl wrapped in gold. A girl who looked like fire and ash. She rose from her mat and whispered a curse, her eyes rolling back. Let her be revealed, she hissed. Let her glory burn to dust. Back in the palace, the first drum sounded. Boom. Ashabi blinked. The second drum followed. Boom. The air shifted. Her skin tingled. He felt the magic unraveling. I have to go, she said to the prince, pulling her hand away. Wait. I don't even know your name. I'm sorry. The third drum boomed, louder than the others. The spell broke. Ashabi ran, her slippers falling off as she fled through the garden. Behind her, the prince called out, but she was gone. The chariot had vanished. The forest waited. She ran barefoot, her gown fading into dust, her beads cracking and falling away. By the time she reached her home, she was covered in ash once more. She collapsed behind the firewood stack, breathless, her feet bleeding. Inside, Aylode was waiting. A smile curled on her lips. You were at the festival, weren't you? Ashabi froze. I saw your eyes in the prince's dream, Aylode whispered. You're the girl he'll search for. Ashabi said nothing. Her heart thudded in her chest. But don't worry, Aylode said, stepping into the shadows. He'll never find you. Because by the next moon, you won't be here to be found. The fire in the hearth crackled. Outside, a shiny beaded anklet lay on the palace steps. The prince picked it up gently, his fingers trembling. I will find her, he vowed. Even if I have to search every hut in this kingdom. And so the search began. The dawn after the festival broke with uneasy stillness. The sun was high, but the palace felt like it held its breath. Prince Folarin stood alone in the royal garden, still gripping a delicate beaded anklet in his hand. It shimmered faintly in the morning light, the last trace of the girl who vanished like mist. He had not slept. His advisors pleaded with him to rest, to eat, to prepare for his duties. But he only stared at the anklet and whispered to himself. I know she's out there. I've seen her eyes before. I've felt her soul in my dreams. In the great hall, the Oba gathered his messengers. My son has chosen, he announced. But the girl has no name, no known lineage. Still, she is the one. He held up the anklet. Let her be found. Search every compound, every hut, every farmland. Whosoever this fits shall be our future queen. The kingdom stirred. Messengers rode through towns and villages. Drummers beat the news into the earth. Girls rushed to oil their feet and soften their ankles. Mothers whispered prayers. Fathers pushed daughters forward with nervous pride. In Ashabi's compound, the air was thick with tension. Wura and Ronk paced the courtyard, applying shea butter and tying charms around their ankles. Aylode moved like a woman possessed, ordering them about, whispering incantations beneath her breath. Ashabi stayed silent. Her heart beat like thunder, but her face showed nothing. She swept the floor, kept her eyes down, and said nothing as Wura mocked the other girls in the village. "No one danced like me," she boasted. "I wore coral beads straight from Benin." Ronk scoffed. "The prince will pick me. I'm taller and my waist has no rival." Aylode clapped her hands sharply. "Both of you will try. One of you must wear the anklet. We only need one match. Lie if you must." Ashabi looked up. Just for a moment. Aylode caught her gaze. "Not a word from you," she snapped. "Your tongue is useless, just like your mother's charms. Now go wash the pit latrine. That's where you belong." Ashabi turned away without a word. But inside her chest something was shifting, growing larger, hotter. It wasn't just sorrow anymore. It was power waking slowly. That evening the royal procession arrived. Drummers, guards, and servants filed through the village, their steps measured, their eyes searching. At the center rode Prince Folarin, the beaded anklet resting on a velvet cushion beside him. Crowds gathered as they stopped at each household. Girls lined up with trembling feet and hopeful eyes. One by one the anklet was placed. Too tight. Too loose. No fit. When they arrived at Ajani's compound, Aylode was already waiting. Her daughters stood behind her, their feet freshly washed, their ankles dusted. "You are welcome, royal ones," Aylode greeted with a low bow. "We have two fine girls here. Both noble. Both ready." Prince Folarin nodded, though his eyes were far away. A servant stepped forward with the anklet. Wura went first. She pushed her foot out, biting her lip as the anklet resisted. "Press harder," Aylode whispered. "Make it fit." But it would not. Ronk tried next. She forced her ankle into it, then winced. "It's tight, just give me a moment." But the anklet stretched and snapped. The servant pulled it away with a frown. Prince Folarin sighed. "Neither." Aylode leaned forward quickly. "Perhaps the magic of the night has faded, my prince. Beauty can change with the sun." But the prince wasn't listening. His eyes had drifted past them, toward the back of the compound, where a girl in faded wrappers carried a basket of firewood. He stood. "You," he said. "What is your name?" Ashabi froze. Aylode stepped forward quickly. "She's just a servant, my prince. A distant cousin. She's not of noble blood. Dirty girl. Her ankles are rough from labor." But Folarin ignored her. He walked to Ashabi slowly. Her head was still bowed. Her heart raced. "Please," he said softly. "Just try it." The servant knelt before her, raising the anklet. Ashabi looked at it for a long moment, then nodded and lifted her foot. It slid on as if made for her. The world stilled. Gasps echoed. Birds took off from the trees. The wind shifted. Aylode went pale. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Wura stumbled backward. Ronk stared, stunned. Prince Folarin's face lit up with wonder. "It's you," he whispered. "I knew it." Ashabi met his eyes, tears in hers. "You said you dreamed of me." He smiled. "And now you've walked out of my dream into the sun." But before another word could be spoken, a sudden cry rang out. Aylode lunged forward, her wrapper flying loose, her eyes wild. "She's not worthy," she screamed. "She's a fraud. That anklet is cursed." Guards moved to block her, but she reached into her cloth and threw a handful of black powder at Ashabi. The powder burst into smoke. Ashabi gasped, stumbling back. But then something strange happened. Instead of harming her, the smoke swirled around Ashabi like a cloak. Her rags fell away, and for a moment her golden gown returned, brighter, stronger, pulsing with light. Her skin glowed, her necklace burned like fire. She stood tall, radiant, unshaken. Aylode fell to the ground, screaming. Her mother was a witch, a river demon. Her blood is cursed. The prince stepped in front of Ashabi. "No." Her blood is blessed. He turned to his guards. Take this woman. Let the elders question her. There is something unclean here. Aylode fought, but it was no use. As she was dragged away, she shrieked into the sky. You think you've won? The river may crown you, but the forest has its own king. He's watching her. And he wants her too. The wind howled. Ashabi stood in the middle of it all, stunned. Her past had shattered. Her future had opened like a door she never thought she'd find. But as the prince took her hand, she felt something cold brush her shoulder. Far away, deep in the forest where the iroko tree swayed, a new presence had awakened. Something old. Something angry. Something that had waited long enough. They left the village before the rooster crowed. Prince Folarin rode at the front, Ashabi beside him in a fine carriage draped in white cloth and adorned with peacock feathers. She wore a new golden gown, simpler than the one from the festival but radiant all the same. Around her ankle gleamed the beaded anklet, now pulsing faintly with light as if it had a heartbeat of its own. The villagers watched in stunned silence. Some bowed as she passed. Others only stared, their minds torn between awe and suspicion. Even the winds that usually swept through the trees at dawn seemed to hold back, waiting. In the distance, the Oba's palace rose like a mountain, ancient and full of secrets. The closer they drew, the heavier the air became. Ashabi could feel it pressing against her skin. Not fear exactly, but something older than fear. A whisper in the bones. She had barely stepped through the palace gates when the royal seer called for her. The girl must be seen, he said in a voice like gravel. Before the sun reaches its peak. The prince hesitated. She just arrived. But the Oba nodded. Let her go. The ancestors speak early when destiny is near. Ashabi was led into a dark chamber at the back of the palace. No windows, just thick woven mats and a single glowing lamp in a calabash. The seer sat cross-legged, his eyes clouded with age and something more. He beckoned her forward and motioned for her to sit. He studied her. Long and silent. You walk with fire on your heels, he murmured at last. Your path is blessed, but it cuts through thorns. Ashabi said nothing. He reached for a bowl beside him and poured out a handful of cowries. They scattered across a woven mat, spinning and landing with sharp clicks. His face changed. He inhaled sharply. The river chose you, he whispered. But the forest is hungry. Ashabi's heart skipped. What do you mean? The seer's eyes met hers, suddenly sharp. You carry a gift older than this palace. Your mother did too. That anklet? It is not just decoration. It binds you to something sacred. Something jealous. Ashabi's mouth was dry. Aylode said something. He said the forest has a king. That he watches me. The seer leaned close. She spoke the truth, though she twisted it. There is a king in the forest. Not of men, but of spirits. He is called Olugbala, the keeper beneath the roots. Long ago he made a pact with your bloodline. Protection for power. But your mother broke that pact when she gave birth and refused to offer you. Ashabi blinked. Offer me. The seer nodded slowly. A sacrifice. You were promised to the forest, but she defied it. She hid you, gave you a false life in the ashes. But the forest never forgets. And now that you wear the anklet, now that your light has awakened. He looked away, his voice low. The king has come to collect. Ashabi stood suddenly. No. I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't call him. The seer looked up at her, eyes soft now. Destiny doesn't wait for permission, child. You must be ready. He handed her a small leather pouch tied with a red thread. When the trees whisper your name at night, pour this into a bowl of water and speak your truth. The river may still protect you. But be warned, the forest will not come gently. That night, as the palace celebrated, Ashabi sat by herself on a stone balcony. The stars were out, but they seemed dimmer than usual. Music drifted from the inner courtyard. Laughter echoed from the kitchens. But inside her there was only silence. She held the anklet in her hand. It was warm, alive, as if something within it breathed with her. She remembered the seer's words. The king beneath the roots. A sacrifice that never happened. The wind shifted. Somewhere in the darkness a branch cracked. Then another. And then she heard it. A voice. Low and dry. Like bark splitting. Daughter of the defiant. She froze. Do you remember the soil from which you rose? She turned, heart pounding. No one was there. Just the garden below. The irako tree swayed gently, its leaves rustling in an unseen wind. You wear the gift, the voice murmured closer now. But you do not honor the giver. Ashabi backed away. Who are you? The shadows thickened. Beneath the tree a figure formed. Cloaked in leaves and smoke. Where its face should be, there was only a hollow mask made of bone and vines. I am the pact broken. The promise denied. I am a Lugbala. Ashabi's voice trembled. You can't have me. I belong to the river. I belong to myself. The figure tilted its head. The river is gentle. The forest is eternal. You can run to water, but you will return to soil. With that, it vanished. The leaves stilled. The air lightened. Ashabi collapsed to her knees. She knew then, this was not over. The prince, the palace, the golden gown, none of it could protect her from what was waking beneath the earth. She had to learn the truth. She had to find her mother's secrets. And she had to do it fast. Because the forest had waited long enough. And it was coming for her. Ashabi rode through the morning mist with purpose in her veins. She wore no crown, no gown, only a simple white wrapper and a scarf tied firmly around her head. The beaded anklet was hidden beneath her cloth, humming faintly with warmth. She carried the leather pouch the seer had given her and a small calabash filled with river water. She didn't tell Prince Folarin where she was going. She only left a note. I must know who I am before I can be who I'm meant to be. She took the long path out of the palace, past the hills where hunters told stories and children chased lizards, past the farms where yam leaves danced in the wind, past the broken compound that once held her childhood in chains, and into the forest. The deeper she went, the older the trees became. Their roots curled like giant fingers, their trunks whispering songs that no human mouth could sing. She walked slowly, placing her bare feet on the earth as if greeting an old friend. She reached the sacred grove just as the sun pierced the canopy. The irako tree stood tall at the center, its bark cracked with time, its branches swaying to a rhythm only it could hear. The air around it was thick with memory. Ashabi knelt beside its roots. She set the calabash down and poured the powder into the water. The moment the last grain touched the surface, the liquid shimmered gold. She closed her eyes. I speak my truth. I am Ashabi, daughter of Mofalawake. I was born of river light and raised in ashes. I did not choose the pact, but I choose to end it. The wind shifted. The earth beneath her pulsed once. Then the grove came alive. Leaves twisted into spirals. Roots moved like serpents. A soft light rose from the calabash, swirling upward until it formed a shape, feminine, tall, graceful. Her face was Ashabi's but older, stronger. It was her mother. Ashabi stared, tears brimming. Mama. The spirit smiled gently. My daughter. I've waited. Why didn't you tell me? About the pact? About him. Mofalawake knelt beside her. I tried. But Ilode silenced my voice before I could teach you. The forest king offered power in exchange for my child. I refused. I chose love over fear. I gave you a life even if it meant hiding you among ash and bitterness. Ashabi reached out, but her mother's hand passed through hers like mist. He wants me now, she whispered. He says I was promised. Her mother's eyes darkened. He cannot claim what you do not give freely. His power is strong, but your blood holds something older. The river chose you. The earth bore you. You are balance, Ashabi, not sacrifice. A sudden tremor ran through the grove. The irako tree groaned, its leaves shaking violently. From the shadows, the forest king emerged again, Olugbala, tall and terrible, his mask blank as death. You called me, he said. And I have come. Ashabi stood steady now. I didn't call you. I came to end this. The ground cracked. Vines rose around her ankles, tugging. You were promised, he growled. Your mother defied fate. But fate bends to no one. Ashabi raised her chin. Fate bends to will. And mine is not yours to command. She stepped forward, the beaded anklet flashing like firelight. I break the pact. The river water in the calabash boiled suddenly. A burst of light shot upward, blinding. The vines recoiled. The forest king shrieked, not in pain but in fury. No. From the roots of the irako tree, water burst forth, clear and glowing. It surrounded Ashabi like a shield. The beaded anklet lifted into the air, spinning faster and faster until it shattered, its beads scattering like stars. A voice echoed through the grove. It was not Ashabi's. Not her mother's. It was older. She is not yours. She is of river and root. She is the new covenant. The forest king stepped back, his form flickering like flame in the wind. With one last hiss, he vanished into the bark of the tree. The grove fell silent. Ashabi fell to her knees, breathless. The spirit of her mother leaned close. You have ended the old curse. But remember, balance must be kept. You are not only river or forest. You are both. Walk wisely. Ashabi nodded, tears falling freely. Will I see you again? Her mother's smile was gentle. I will never leave you. And with that she faded. Ashabi remained in the grove for hours, letting the earth cool beneath her. When she finally rose, the sun was setting and the wind was no longer heavy. It was playful, light, like a friend returned. She walked back slowly. Prince Folarin was waiting at the palace gate, eyes full of worry. She ran to him and he caught her in his arms. I thought I lost you, he said softly. You almost did, she replied, her voice strong now. But I found myself. A month later, the kingdom gathered for a coronation unlike any other. Ashabi was crowned not just as queen, but as Akinbrin I, the one who walks between worlds. She wore a crown woven with river pearls and bark beads, a cloak dyed in indigo and ochre, and anklets of silver bells that rang like laughter when she walked. She opened new schools, rebuilt the sacred groves, and honored both the river and the forest with yearly festivals of light and healing. And in the heart of the palace garden she planted a new tree, an offspring of the irako, blessed with water from the sacred grove. Children played under it. Birds nested in its branches. And sometimes when the wind blew just right, a soft voice could be heard in its rustling leaves. My daughter. You chose well. Tabi smiled. Her story had begun in ashes. But it had blossomed in truth. And she had written her own ending.